Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Welcome to my Week 12 Best Bets video for the Week 12 college football season. We will be looking at the bets for this coming Saturday's games. There's a lot of games, looking at who's going to win, who's going to lose, what the spreads are, the over, under, and the money line. So hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started. I think there's 21 ranked matchups this weekend, so there's a lot of games to break down. So let's kick it off. Kicking off on Saturday at 12 p.m. on ABC, we have number 10 Louisville at 9-1 versus Miami at 6-4. Louisville coming off of that really sloppy win versus the Virginia Cavaliers, but they did get the win. They have a lot to play for right now. They are in the hunt to play Florida State in the ACC championship. They have a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball. They have a top 20 offense. They have a top 20 defense. They only give up 17.1 points per game. And they have a lot of playmakers. They have Plummer at quarterback, Jordan at running back, and Thrash at wide receiver. Miami. So quarterback Williams got hurt last weekend versus Florida State. They do have Tyler Van Dyke coming in back at quarterback. He has like 11 picks in his last 4 to 5 games. So he's just having a horrible season so far this year. A lot of people want him off of the team. Miami is the favorite, though, by 1 here. Louisville was favored Monday. Miami is now favored now, and the over-under is 46.5. Both teams have very physical defenses. Miami's team is very aggressive, so I can definitely see why Miami is the favorite as of right now. I was going with the upset previously, but like I said, Miami's now the favorite. I think Miami's going to pull this one off 27-24. So I have them getting the win. I have them going over, and I have them covering. This game could definitely go Louisville's way, but I think Miami's due to get a win at some point. They might catch Louisville off guard looking at Florida State. Next game we have at 12 p.m. on ESPN. We have number 14 Oklahoma at 8-2 versus BYU at 5-5. Oklahoma 24.5 point favorites here. Over under is 57.5. So Oklahoma, they have a top 10 offense. They have Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. He was responsible for 8 touchdowns last weekend. They did end their 2-game losing streak last weekend. Their goal is just win out, try to get into the Big 12 championship and have that rematch versus Texas. They did beat them the first time. BYU, since their quarterback got hurt, they've completely fallen off the map. They are only averaging 17 points per game. They have a really bad offense here, so you definitely see why Oklahoma is so heavily favored. Don't sleep on BYU. They are usually pretty physical, but I do not have this game being close at all. I have Oklahoma getting the win here, 41-21, just because I think they're going to rest the starters because they're ready for Texas. So I do not have them covering, but I am going with the over. Next game we have at 4 p.m. on Fox. We have number 6 Oregon at 9-1 versus Arizona State at 3-7. Oregon 23.5 point favorites here. Over under is 54.5. So for Arizona State, they have absolutely no offense at all. I think they're averaging like 17 or 18 points per game. They cannot score. They cannot get first downs. They are playing the Ducks. To me, they are the best one-loss team in the country right now. I would not want to play them out of every team right now this weekend. They are hot. They have the number 2 offense in the country, averaging 49 points per game, and they also have a top 10 defense as well. This team can beat you on both sides of the ball. They have Bo Nix, who is number 1 or 2 in the Heisman race right now. He has 29 touchdowns, only 2 picks, and he's closing in on 3,200 yards. They have Irving at running back, closing in on 1,000 yards, and they have Franklin at 1,100 yards at wide receiver. So they have playmakers at every single position. They can beat you multiple ways. This is an easy win here. I have the Ducks winning 51-17, covering that spread, and I'm going with the over as well. But this game should not be close in any way whatsoever. Next game we have is at 7:30 on ESPN. We have 5-5 Florida Gators versus number 9 Missouri at 8-12. Missouri is 11.5 point favorites here, over under 58.5. So for the Florida Gators, Billy Napier has a lot of heat on him right now. He has to win one more game in order to get bowl eligible. They have Florida State next weekend. I don't know if they'll win that. They have Missouri this weekend. They have to split it. They have to win one, or he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. I do not think he will be fired, but his seat will definitely be very hot starting next year at Miami. So Florida has absolutely nothing going for them. They have an okay offense. They do not have a good defense at all, probably one of the worst in the country, actually. For Missouri, they have a lot to play for. They are back in the top 10 right now. They have Cook at quarterback, 2,800 yards, 17 touchdowns. Schrader at running back, closing in on 1,000 yards. Burden at wide receiver, closing in on 1,000 yards. They also have a top 20 defense. So this is a very well-rounded team, a very good team. Props to the Tigers. They kind of came out of nowhere this year, started out the year unranked, and now they are pretty close to finishing the year in the top 25. I have Missouri getting the win here. This game will not be close, but Florida should get some garbage time points because they do have a decent offense. I have Missouri, though, winning 38-24, so a very comfortable win. I am going with the over, and I have them covering that spread. Next game at 8 p.m. on Fox, we have number 7, Texas Longhorns at 9-1 versus Iowa State at 6-4. Texas 7.5-point favorites here, over under 46.5. So for the Texas Longhorns, they've had a lot of big leads, and they've been stinking the second half for probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. They take the lead, and they can't hold on to it. This is not a second half team at all. They do have one of the best wins this year, though, and they beat Bama at Bama. But Steve Sarkisian must control the second half of games. Teams are making adjustments versus them, and they're not adjusting themselves. They have to get that offense back on track. They also do have a top 20 defense as well, and a serviceable offense averaging 33.5 points per game. But they actually need to get those numbers up. For Iowa State, this is a very physical team. They can run the ball. Matt Campbell is a great head coach. Do not sleep on them. They have a top 15 defense, and they're very physical. The biggest thing for Texas is they lost running back Brooks for the season. He did tear his ACL this past week. That's a massive loss. He was closing in on 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's a great running back. They lost him. So the rest of the team has to step up because Texas uses him to control the clock, control the second half. He's now gone. They've been stinking second half, so they have to get someone else to stack up. But they still have Quinn Ewers, they still have Worthy, they still have Mitchell. I have Texas getting the win here in a close, hard-fought game, 28-24. I'm going with the over, but I do not have them covering that spread. But that's one of those games that Texas cannot sleep on. Next game at 12 p.m. on Fox, we have number 3 Michigan at 10-0 versus Maryland at 6-4. Michigan is 19-point favorites here. The over-under is 50.5. So for Michigan, will Harbaugh be on the sidelines? We don't know yet. We should find out tomorrow when he goes before the judge to block that injunction. But we're going to find out if he's coaching. I don't think it should really matter because no matter what, Michigan should win this game. The big thing is, will he be on the sidelines next weekend versus the Buckeyes? But Michigan, they have a top 10 offense. They have the number 1 defense, only giving up 7.5 points per game. 7.5 points per game. That is crazy. Maryland, they went on a massive losing streak. They finally got a win this past weekend, so they got back into the win column. They have a decent offense. They do not have a good defense. They don't have a good offense, but it's not bad. It's above average to lower good. But Michigan is going to look to just run the ball down their throat, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They have Blake Corum. They have Donovan Edwards. Look for J.J. McCarthy to get more than 60 yards passing here. That was kind of pathetic. Look for him to be around 152, 200 yards just because they don't need him to throw. The goal is just win the game, get to next weekend healthy, and get Harbaugh back on the sidelines. Michigan, 19-point favorites here, over under 50.5. I have Michigan winning 34-13, covering the spread, and I am going with this game being under. Just because I think they get the starters pulled going into the fourth quarter. Next game at 12 p.m. on ESPN+, we have 7-3 Chattanooga FCS versus number 8 Alabama at 9-1. So this is your typical garbage Bama matchup that they have at the end of the season. There's no lines on this game because it is an FCS game, so that'll come out Saturday. Chattanooga does have a pretty good pass offense with their quarterback. He has 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. But let's be serious. This game's not going to be close at all. It is going to be a complete blowout. Chattanooga might get like one first-half score, and then they'll get a garbage fourth-time score. So I have Bama winning this game 51-10. There's not much to focus on here because we don't have the numbers, but it's going to be a blowout. Next game at 12 p.m. on Fox Sports, we have 6-4 Rutgers with the top 15 defense. I think they're only giving up like 14 points per game versus number 12 Penn State at 8-2 with losses to Michigan and the Buckeyes. Penn State, 20.5-point favorites here. Pretty big spread, but the over-under is 41.5. So that's a pretty big spread for such a low over-under. But with this game, Rutgers has absolutely no offense at all. Very good physical defense, but they're not going to be able to score on Penn State, who has a top 10 defense under Manny Diaz. For Penn State, the biggest issue is their offense with Drew Aller. He has 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 1 pick, but they have absolutely no vertical weapons. But Rutgers is absolutely no threat. I have Penn State cruising to the win here, 30-10. So I am going with the under, but I do have them not covering that spread. That spread might move. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down by Saturday, so that might change. But like I said, Penn State just fired the offensive coordinator. So there's a new guy calling plays this weekend, so they might be kind of rusty there, and that might hold them back from reaching 35-40. Next game is at 12 p.m. on the SEC Network. We have UL Monroe at 2-8 versus number 13 Ole Miss at 8-2. Ole Miss is 37-point favorites here. Over-under is 61.5. So pretty massive spread there. Pretty high over-under. This game is not going to be close. UL Monroe stinks. They're not good at all. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart was hurt this past weekend. Will he be starting? That is a game time decision as of right now. Might start, might not start. If he doesn't start, it should be Sanders at quarterbacks. He has a lot of reps from when he played for the Cowboys. So no matter what, they will cruise to the easy win here. They have the way better playmakers. They have Jackson Dart. They have Quinton Junkins. They have Harris at wide receiver. They have a serviceable defense. I have them winning 44-10 just because I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback for Ole Miss as of right now. So there's still that question mark. So I do not have them covering the spread, and I'm also going with the under just because I don't know that Dart will be playing yet. Next game we have at 12 p.m. on ESPN+. We have number 24 Tulane at 9-1 versus FAU at 4-6, which is Tom Herman's team. Tulane is 9.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 47.5. So with this game, Tulane has not covered the spread in 5 straight weeks. So I'm not going to go with them covering it now just because I'm not going to buy it till they actually do it. But FAU is not good at all. They have a decent rush defense, but Tulane has the way better playmakers. They have Pratt at quarterback. They have Hughes at running back with 1,000 yards, and they have pretty good weapons on the wide receiver core. So I have Tulane getting the win here, 27-20. So I have them not covering the spread, and I'm also going with the under as well, just because they haven't been hitting it. So like I said, I'm not buying it till I actually see it. Next matchup we have is a under-the-radar good one. At 2:30 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network, we have number 22 Utah at 7-3 versus number 17 Arizona at 7-3. Arizona is 1-point favorites here, so this game is virtually a pick-em. Over-under 44.5. Do not sleep on Arizona. I have been saying that the whole year. Their 3 losses have all been close. Barely lost to the Trojans, barely lost to Washington. This is a really good team under Jedd Fisch. They can throw, they can run, and they have a top 20 defense. So they're a very surprising team and a very physical team. For the Utah, we know what they are. They are under Kyle Whittingham, who's the most underappreciated coach in the country. They have a top 10 defense, a very physical defense. So this is going to be a line of scrimmage matchup. Their offense started out the year god-awful, but they've actually looked pretty decent the last 3 to 4 weeks. They've been playing a lot better, scoring 30 to 40 points per matchup here. Like I said, Arizona is the 1-point favorites here. But I just think this type of matchup always favors Utah. Whenever there's a physical matchup, they are always the more physical team. But they do have a lot of injuries, so I definitely see why Arizona is the favorite. But I'm going to go with the +1 here. I have Utah winning this game 28-27, and I'm going with the over. I just think that things are lined up for them to win this game. But like I said, do not sleep on Arizona. They are a very good team. Pac-12 is just so deep this season. Next game at 3:30 on CBS, we have number 1 Georgia at 10-0, coming off of a beatdown versus Ole Miss, versus number 18 Tennessee at 7-3. Georgia 10-point favorites here, over under 58.5. So if Tennessee loses this game, they could realistically get pushed out of the top 25 because they'd be 7-4. Georgia is just trying to continue to win out, get to the SEC championship, and play Bama, beat them, and get into the Final Four here. Georgia has everything going for them right now. They've been really hot since they played Florida. They've been scoring a lot of points, and their defense has gone back on track. They do have a top 15 defense. Carson Beck has been going off passing the ball, throwing for 300 yards for the last 3 weeks. He has 3,000 yards right now, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks. They still don't have a great running game, but they have a very good running game still. For Tennessee, Joe Milton cannot throw the ball accurately past 5 yards, but they are a run-first team with Wright, and they have a pretty decent defense. But I don't think this game is going to be close. It might be close for second quarter, but I have Georgia pulling away, winning this game 37-20. So I'm going with the under, but I do have them covering that spread. Next game at 3:30 on Fox Sports, we have 5-5 Illinois versus 8-2 number 16 Iowa. Iowa, I don't know how they keep moving them up. Why are they even ranked? They only average like 15, 16 points per game. That's a complete joke for a top 25 team. Anyways, Iowa is 3-point favorites here, and the over-under is a massive 30.5 here. There's not much to say on this game. The Hawkeyes basically have a top 5 to top 10 defense every single year. Very physical team, but they can't score any points to save their life. I have Iowa winning this game 17-10. I don't even know that Illinois will get 10 points, but it really doesn't matter. This is going to be a very boring game. Do not watch it. But the Hawkeyes will get the win here. I have them going with the under. Every single week they go with the under. No matter how low the over-under is, they don't ever hit it. But I do have them covering that spread. Next game at 3:30 on NBC, we have 4-6 Wake Forest trying to get a bowl game here, so they need 2 straight wins versus number 19 Notre Dame coming off the bye. They are 7-3. Notre Dame 24.5-point favorites here. Over under is 46.5. So with this game, this is Sam Hartman having the rematch versus old team. So both teams have a reason to play this game. He wants to get revenge on them. They want to get revenge on him. Notre Dame has a top 15 defense, very physical team. They have Estime at running back who has 1,000 yards. So they're basically just going to run the ball right down Wake Forest's throat. This game should not be close. I have Notre Dame getting the win here, 38-17. So I don't think that they'll cover that spread, but I do think that they will go over. At 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 20 North Carolina Tar Heels sitting at 8-2 versus Clemson at 6-4. Clemson 6.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 58.5. So with this game, Clemson's offense has looked pretty good the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to fully jump on board there. It's only been 2 weeks. They've not been too good prior to that. With the Tar Heels, they have a bad defense, but they have some playmakers on offense. They do have Drake May. He is a top 5 pick for the NFL draft, so that has to give you some props there. He has 3,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. He has Hampton at running back, closing in on 1,300 yards, and he has Walker at wide receiver. For Clemson, they have a very good physical defense, so they could create a lot of problems for Drake May. But if this game comes down to Drake May versus Klubnik, I'm definitely going to put my money on Drake May. So I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm not comfortable with that because Clemson could definitely win this game. They are very talented. They're just having kind of a down year this year. But I'm going with UNC to get the win here, 34-31. So that's going to be with them not covering the spread, obviously, but I am going with the over. This game has the definite potential to be a high-scoring shootout. Next one that we'll be looking at is at 4 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. We have 5-5 Minnesota Gophers versus number 2 Ohio State sitting at 10-0. They did fall 1 spot after their win this past weekend. So the Buckeyes come into this game as 27.5-point favorites here. The over-under 49.5. So with this game, Minnesota has an okay defense, but their offense has actually looked somewhat better the last few weeks. It did start out pretty bad, but it has been serviceable for the last few weeks. But the Buckeyes have the number 2 or 3 defense in the country, giving up 9.8 points per game. So they're definitely going to shut that crap down. They have Kyle McCord, who I've been pretty harsh on him this year, but he's actually done pretty good the last 2 to 3 weeks. But still, he's their worst quarterback that they've had in a long time. And he has a lot of weapons to get the ball to. But he's closing in on 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 4 picks. He has one of the best wide receiver cores in the country, led by Marvin Harrison Jr., and they have Henderson at running back. So this team has a good defense that is going to shut Minnesota down. The main thing to me is, when do they pull their starters? They have Michigan next week. They don't want anyone to get hurt. So after you dominate the first half, they better not be starting the fourth quarter. So I think they pull the starters early So that keeps them from going with the over. So they were 27.5-point favorites here. I have them winning 38-10. So covering that spread, but I'm going to go just barely with the under. Just because, like I said, I think they pull the starters early. Next game is at 4 p.m. on ESPN2. We have number 23, Oklahoma State at 7-3 versus Houston at 4-6. Oklahoma State 7-point favorites here, over under 60.5. So Oklahoma State's coming off of that loss that probably should have gotten them taken out of the top 25. If they lose this game, they will definitely get thrown out. But they do have Gordon, one of the best running backs in the country. So their goal will just be control the game clock, do not throw the ball, run the ball down Houston's throat. For Houston, do not sleep on them. They did play Texas very close. They are a very gifted vertical team, so they will be trying to score quick and score fast. I think this game has the potential to be like a 40-35 game, but I'm actually going to go with the lower side because I think that Mike Gundy tries to have a low-scoring physical game and just keep the ball on the ground the whole game. Because if they can't run the ball, they definitely cannot throw the ball. They have a very bad pass team. But I have Oklahoma State getting the win here, 31-23. So I have them covering the spread, but I'm actually going to go with the under this weekend. Next game we have at 6:30 p.m. on the CW network, the 3-7 North Alabama versus number 4 Florida State at 10-0. This is an FCS matchup, so there's no spread till Saturday. This game is not going to be close, but I don't think Florida State really cares about this game. Whenever they play bad competition, they always play down to the competition. They just don't seem to get fired up. But Florida State, very talented team. They have Travis at quarterback. They have Benson at running back. They have Coleman, Jordan. This team is loaded, and they have a top 15 defense as well. But there's really no point you get fired up for this game. Just get through this game, beat Florida next weekend, and then you have Louisville in the ACC championship. So just win out, and you are in the playoffs. Just make sure no one gets hurt. Travis has been pretty banged up the whole year, so I think he should only play the first half, and that's it. But I have Florida State. We have no line, but I have them winning 48-10. Next game is 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. We have number 21 Kansas State at 7-3 versus number 25 Kansas at 7-3. Kansas State 7.5-point favorites here. The over/under is 56.5. So with Kansas, they were down to their third-string quarterback last weekend. They lost Daniels, Bean. They were down to the third-string guy, and they lost on a last-second field goal to Texas Tech. That really stinks because had they had their first or second-string quarterback, they do win that game. So they technically should be 8-2 right now. Who will be starting this weekend? We don't really know, but they're really banged up right now. Down to their third string. Bean or Daniels could be back this weekend. But like I said, nonetheless, they're really banged up, but they do still have Neal at running back, and he's a really good running back. Kansas State, this team has been firing this year. They have a top 20 defense, and they still have Will Howard at quarterback with 2,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 8 picks. They are just a better team, and they are healthy. So I have Kansas State getting the win here comfortably, 34-17. So I'm going to go with them covering that spread, but I am going with the under. The next really good matchup at 7:30 p.m. on ABC, we have number 5 Washington at 10-0 versus number 11 Oregon State at 8-2. Oregon State is actually the favorite this weekend, and they are the lower-ranked team. They are 2.5-point favorites here, over under 63.5. This game has the potential to be a massive shootout. Both teams are very good. Washington, just like Oregon, they have the number 1 or 2 Heisman contender right now with Michael Penix, 3,600 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 picks, and the running game has been pretty decent the last 3 weeks. That's a big plus for them because they're so pass heavy. And they also, just like the Buckeyes, have the number 1 or 2 wide receiver cores led by Odunze. This team is very talented. They can score fast. They can score quick. So Oregon State, they can run. They can throw. They have DJU at quarterback. They have Martinez at running back. And they have a top 20 defense. So they can beat you whatever way they need to. Passing the ball. But I think they're going to try to run the ball on Washington. Keep the ball on the ground. Drain the clock. Keep the ball out of Penix's hands. That's their key there. That's why they are the favorites, because they have a really good run game. They have a very good defense. But I just think it's Washington's year. I have Washington getting the win, 38-31. So I'm going, obviously, with the +2.5. Washington will win. I'm going with the over. This game should be a high-scoring, great, fun game to watch. I think Washington runs the table, and then they get Oregon in the Pac-12 championship for that rematch. So that will be an awesome game. Final game, we have Georgia State at 6-4, who actually has a pretty decent offense, versus number 15 LSU sitting at 7-3. So LSU comes into this game 31-point favorites here. That's a pretty massive spread. And the over-under is 71.5. That is a massive over-under versus a serviceable Georgia State team. Obviously, this game is not going to be close at all. Jaden Daniels, had they just lost one less game, he would be the hands-down favorite for the Heisman, having a record-setting year. He has 3,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 4 picks, and this guy's ran for hundreds of yards. They can light it up. LSU's defense, though, is complete garbage. They can definitely give up some points, but it's Georgia State, so the game is not going to be close. I think that spread's too high, so I think the Tigers will try to keep the score high because they still want Jaden Daniels to get some Heisman buzz, but I don't think Georgia State will be able to score enough to get the over. So I have LSU covering the spread. I have them winning 52-17, but I'm going to go with the under. So that's my breakdown of the Week 12 best bets for the Week 12 college football season. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.